Every time a new Pokemon game releases, discussion about it will inevitably boil down to the same few talking points, almost always related to how the game failed in the eyes of some of the player base. A very consistent point of hate-filled discussion surrounding recent Pokemon games is the rival characters, pointing to the most recent rival being the worst and the older rivals as being way superior in some completely arbitrary way. This continues with every region, every new rival. Needless to say, it gets pretty exhausting. So I've taken it upon myself to continue the cycle and defend one of the most hated rivals in the series, and my personal favorite. As I've talked about at length in previous videos, Pokemon Sword and Shield were maligned by every quarter of the fanbase on their initial release. As someone who's always loved the games, it's been my sworn duty to defend every aspect of them, whether I personally like them or not, until the day that I die. Thus, this serves as a warning that the following is just my opinion, and should not make you upset in any way. That being said, Hop is the single best rival in the series, and here's why. Within the story of Pokemon Sword and Shield, Hop serves as the primary rival to the player throughout the game, and as any rival should, is working towards the exact same goal as you. Unlike the other two rivals, Marnie and Bede, who are working towards their own specific goals, Hop makes it clear from the start that he'll be the one standing in your way at every turn during your journey through the Galar region. Hop is extremely confident and headstrong, often blitzing through the region and earning his gym badges way before you do, almost to a reckless degree. He gets into every battle he possibly can, often to his own detriment. But unlike many rivals with similar attitudes, such as Hau or the Gen 6 rivals, it consistently blows up in Hop's face. Hop begins to realize pretty quickly after the third or fourth time you beat him that you're just stronger than he is. He's the little brother of Leon, the best trainer in the region, and among the strongest trainers worldwide. He's always lived in his older brother's shadow, and with the way you just kicked his ass, well, it's just not looking good for him. This comes to a head after the battle against Kabu's Fire Gym. Hop is challenged by fellow challenger Bede, where he faces crushing defeat. In his self-wallowing, he runs straight into his brother, who he profusely apologizes to before running away. This part of Hop is set up extraordinarily well very early in the game, showing Hop's fear of being overshadowed without having him explain it directly to you. I think this is why so many people miss this part of his character, why so many people hate him or find him whiny or annoying or too emotional. Hop is extremely eager because that's all he has. He's nobody without the possibility of usurping his brother. If you take the time to explore Hop's house at the start of the game, you'll find a lot that sets up Hop's eventual declining mental state. His home is filled with photos of Leon, pictures of his achievements, his jerseys, his trophies, everything. Hop's room is filled with photos and posters of his brother, but throughout the house there is not a single photo that contains Hop. For Hop, who grew up in his brother's shadow, with no one even knowing his name or who he is save for his relationship to Leon, every single setback is a devastating loss. That's why his loss against Bede, a no-name, pompous asshat who was endorsed by the chairman solely for finding wishing stars, not even to be the champion, comes as such a massive setback. He realizes he's not good enough for this, but he presses on, hanging on to the belief in himself that got him the endorsement from the champion. He tries out new teams, but they don't work. He trains and trains, believing his weakness makes his brother look weak in comparison, but it just doesn't work. He takes yet another loss in the Sirchester gym, but this time he doesn't let it get him down. Surely if he has enough faith in his partners, he can become Galar's next champion. In every Pokemon game, with the notable exception of Pokemon Legends CA, which we'll return to later in the video, every mainline Pokemon game forces you to defeat your rival every single time. This often dampens the decisive battle aspect of late-game rival battles, as nothing really changes whether you win or lose. As the player, you're supposed to win. This is your story. You're the protagonist, and you have to save the region, or become champion, or finish the Pokedex, or whatever goal is given to you, the random teenager that just moved to this region. But in a franchise where no other rival is allowed to achieve their dreams, it seems like the only one who's really affected is Hop. There's nothing you can do to make him feel better. You're the protagonist, you have to win, that's just how these things go. And to that end, let's take a look at another character from this game that people hate. Marnie is probably the most indefensible miss of storytelling in the last few games. Her character arc has a very interesting hook. She is an incredibly popular trainer from a rundown town in a region where tourism drives the economy of every city within it, and she's battling solely to save her beloved town. But it goes absolutely nowhere. What would she gain from doing this? Eyes on Spikemuth, power to save it, or money to get either? It's never elaborated on. Marnie's town is the only one without a power spot, and so her brother Piers refuses, on principle, to use Dynamax Pokemon even when he's able to. It's his way of protesting the unfair conditions in which his town has been placed under. But Marnie doesn't seem to care about this fact almost at all, and she Dynamaxes in her decisive battle just like the other rivals. Marnie's dream to save her town is all but thrown out by the time you hit the endgame, and really you're just battling her to progress the story. The same goes for Bede, whose character arc practically ends the moment Opal adopts him as the new Balonlee gym leader. While I appreciate the existence of Marnie and Bede, and I find them both fascinating from a character standpoint, neither react to the events of a story in a way that was realistic to what was set up as part of their story. And I think this fact goes for the grand majority of rivals in the franchise. The lack of reaction to the events of the story is par for the course for rival characters, but I think that reaction to the story is what makes Hop unique and interesting. As I said before, Pokemon has recently been experimenting with their rival characters quite a bit, especially in the way that they interact with the player. We've discussed Hop at length, but I'd like to also discuss our two most recent rival characters, those being Nemona and Tawny/Urbane, who I'm just going to refer to as Tawny from here on, because despite slight character differences, they serve essentially the same purpose. Nemona is actually really cool as a rival. She's far more experienced than the player, being champion rank already and having defeated the entire Paldea League. She provides the role of more of a mentor than a rival. In terms of the Pokemon story structure though, she's the closest thing to a rival we get. Except instead of fighting for the same goal, she's cheering us on all the way just so that she can finally battle someone on her level. It's unique, and the knowledge that Nemona is this incredibly powerful trainer when she isn't holding back makes every battle with her all the more fun as you start to anticipate what her final fight will be like. And then you get there, her final fight against champion Nemona, and it's just like every other rival fight. Sure, it's harder, but it has no stakes. You're guaranteed to win because you get another shot whenever you lose. Except here, that is the point. Nemona wants you to win. She's your friend. She's really excited that you made it this far. After the battle, Nemona covers her eyes as if she's tearing up, and she's so happy that you made it this far. Throughout the whole story, Nemona was never meant to be anything more than a friend and mentor. She just happens to be one who's taking up the role of rival in this story. She is someone who throughout the game provides a challenge to the player to make sure that you're up to snuff for what the next thing in the story is going to be. On the exact opposite side of the scale, you have Tawny. I know a lot of people despise her, so if that's you, I hope that this part of the video might change your mind. Oh, and if you don't want to be spoiled on Pokemon Legends EA and its DLC, please click off the video now. Final warning. Tawny is pretty much the only character that you can call a rival in Legends EA. She's actively battling from the same reason you are, to reach rank A and help the city. She's also battling to become the strongest Mega Evolution user in Lumiose to gain the trust of Floette and help stop the rogue Mega phenomenon. These paths diverge when the player is given an offer by Ellen Zygarde to become not the strongest trainer in Lumiose, but a trainer strong enough to utilize Mega Zygarde. This leaves Tawny with the task of becoming the strongest ever Mega Evolution user, and that's something she does. At the end of the main story, there's this part in front of Ange where Tawny challenges you to a battle. It seems random, it seems out of place in the moment, and if you win the battle, it kinda keeps seeming that way. It just reinforces that you're stronger and that Tawny isn't the strongest, despite using her Floette anyway. But something changes if you lose that battle. If you lose, you don't get a redo. Tawny becomes the strongest Mega Evolution user and gets Floette. This is the intended way the story is supposed to go. Tawny is an incredibly powerful trainer, if not a bit of an airhead, with a burning desire to help Lumiose and its people at any personal cost. She is the best suited person to deal with Ange Floette from the inside, while you're the only one with a strong enough will to help Zygarde keep the order in Lumiose. By technicality, you're both equally strong, which is something the DLC hammers home quite a bit, and this helps to reinforce Tawny's character. She's someone who consistently trains and works hard to become the best that she can be, and it works out for her constantly. In fact, she is the current strongest trainer in the history of the games, as after the Mega Dimension DLC, you can rematch her at Quizartico with a full team of level 100 Pokemon, which is something that has never been possible in the franchise before. I bring this up just to point out how unique of a case Hop is. When it comes to other characters who, for lack of a better term, know that they're not the protagonist, Hop is the only one who's actively upset at this information at every turn. Nemona and Tawny are characters who have very specific goals in their minds, something that they need to accomplish alongside the player, challenging them along the way so that they can both reach the goals set for them. Hop is someone who stands in direct opposition to the player, and unlike these other two examples, there can only be one winner. So as we get to the decisive showdown against Hop, Hop enters the Champions Cup first, which is something he uses to further fuel his confidence in winning. And as you continue through your matches, it ends up with both of you facing off one last time, just like you did in Postwick way back at the start of your journey. I just had this sort of flashback, remember? Back when we were still in Postwick? When we got our Pokemon from Lee that day. I never dreamed that I would be standing here, facing you of all people. But it's time I finished what I started that day. Got it? The one who will become champion is me! And Hop goes all out. No battle in this game is particularly difficult, but they definitely try to make this one decently hard. Notably, this battle and the one before it marked the return of Hop's Dubwool, his original partner Pokemon before Leon gave him his starter. This is one of my favorite things that Pokemon does, and it's something that I want to make a video on someday, where a part of a character's Pokemon team tells us things about them as a character that their dialogue doesn't. In this case, Hop's Dubwool is telling us that he's grown out of the thought that he needs to find stronger and stronger Pokemon in order to win. He's got full faith in his partners, and his team is at the apex of its strength and his strength as a trainer. But of course, as we've been saying this whole time, it is not enough. Hop is defeated, and you can see just how hard it hits him after the battle. He delivers one final line, completely dejected. Thanks, mate. I'm glad you were the one here with me. Thanks, mate. I'm glad you were the one here with me. When Sonia was saying that you and I look like we could become heroes, I never really felt like one. But you, mate, I feel like you could do all sorts of great things. Good on you, and your Pokemon. Why did I say that in a British accent, dude? He tried everything, and his dreams were crushed right then and there. But he doesn't have that much time to think about it, as the climax of the game happens and Hop needs to lock in for that. After everything, back in the Slumbering Weald, Hop challenges you to another battle, and this time when he loses, he says, "That's our greatest champion for you. You really are strong, but getting beat this time felt a bit different. I may have lost, but I feel great, you know that? I think I found a dream of my own. I want to help, Oh my fucking god, bro. Jesus, I can't read. Oh my lord. That's our greatest champion for you. You really are strong, but getting beaten this time felt a little bit different. I may have lost, but I feel great. You know what? I think I found a dream of my own. I want to be someone who can help out Pokemon when they're in trouble, wherever they are. I think I want to become a Pokemon professor. I started thinking I might want to be when we were going around to all the stadiums to help out the Pokemon that were running out of control. I know I don't know enough about Pokemon yet, and I've got no experience for this sort of thing. But I'm going to study and I'm going to learn a whole lot. And someday, I'll become the sort of professor that you and Sonia, well, the sort that you'd be proud to know. I'll take a different path than you and Lee are taking, but I'll always think of you as my true rival." I don't need to restate everything he says here again, but it really is the perfect culmination of Hop's character arc. It's clear from the start that Hop was never cut out for this. He loses every battle he challenges, including a gym battle, and his only motivation was to live up to his brother's expectations. But once that came crumbling down, he realized that the only path forward for him was to take a different path. He made a dream of his own instead of following the dream his brother had already accomplished. He wants to be something people can be proud of, someone people can be proud to know, just like his brother. And this need for people to see him was instilled in him from such a young age, it drove him to every single decision he makes over the course of the story. I think that realization is why the other legendary Pokemon resonates with him, and not with a stronger trainer like Leon. Hop is strong of will as well as in battle. He's got this undying pluck that makes him get right back up every time he falls. And that's what makes Hop so interesting. His constant need to keep moving despite the odds being literally impossible, and whether he sees it or not, that perfectly embodies a hero of legend that he, in a metaphorical sense, wants so badly to be. That's why, to me, Hop is Pokemon's greatest rival. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This one was definitely a lot harder to make, since Sword and Shield's story is so much more underbaked than Legends EA's, but I really enjoyed making it nonetheless. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. I'm still new to all this YouTube stuff, so I'd really appreciate it if you show me you enjoyed it in some way or other. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.